Nasudihata Pnat Perkeru Dirias Ka Uab Amuneb Nefashepsi Etnat Hata Nasudihata Pnat Perkeru Dirias Ka Uab Amuneb Nefashepsi Etnat Hata Net Duanet Safekera Senwen Net Duanet Safekera Senwen Net Duanet Safekera Senwen Net Duanet Safekera Senwen Om Meta Pata 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 Ankuja Sane Pata. Okay, so we'll continue with our lecture series. This is a part of the Goddess Net Mystery series. And we're here at the Temple of Aset. And Aset is an aspect of Goddess Net. We've spoken about that in detail. And this is on the ceiling of the roof of the temple of Aset. And now we're going to do a second lesson on this panel to that room. Well, before we go into the room, we're going to do the scripture on the wall to the opening of the room. So currently, we are in column A, and you can see we have A of I. So we've just begun this series of lectures, and thus far we have covered this text here. We've covered here. And we term this lesson 1 because it has a specific theme. And today we're going to go from here to here. And this will be termed lesson 2. It also has a specific theme, but they're interrelated. And there's a feature to this text that we must be aware of. And the feature is right here. Here. This is a damaged area. So all of the text that was here is lost. And if we look closely, some of the texts that we'll be discussing today here. This text has been cut in half, you'll see. So you can see half the text. Oh, where's my red? The text have been cut in half. But if you know what you're looking at, you're able to discern what's supposed to be here to complete the line. So that's what we did. Well, that's what I did when I was working on it. So if we zoom out, and then we come down. So this is lesson 1. So we covered this already. And I did a special presentation on this for the devotional session on Saturday. And now we're at column 2. Column A, I'm sorry, lesson 2. And just a note before we start with the text, you have 3 columns. That this is a system that I developed that uh, works well for how I work with the text. So you have a hieroglyph section, and this is the original text, or photos of the original text. And these photos are taken on our trips and when we do our researches. And then transliteration is taking the hieroglyph and putting it into using English letters to bring about a phonetic rendering of the text. So that's called a transliteration. So you're taking the hieroglyph and you making it pronounceable. And this approximates the language as it was spoken in ancient times. Then you take the transliteration and I take the transliteration and then I do a mystic decipherment. And by mystic, I mean that commonly when texts are translated, you may see in books, etc., the translations are done mostly from a literal perspective. And, that has some value. However, um, when these things are studied closely with a specific context, and the context of the mystical philosophy, you find that there's a lot of of punning and a lot of inferences, and a term you're going to see tonight, illusion, that and metaphor. So it's mystical text relating to spiritual matters of a human being. So to get the full meaning of the word, you have to do a mystical decipherment. So that means you have to know what the sages are saying. So lesson 2. Ra'un Jeret Zesh At Em Abud Ahat. And how did this get here? Okay. Okay, so Ra'un Jeret Zesh At Em Abdud Ahat. So now the word for word translation: creator spirit consciousness unfettered, vertical city, unlocked door through to Abdud, divine palace. So it means creator spirit consciousness unfetters the awareness of the higher consciousness region, and the door to this higher consciousness region that you pass through has been unlocked to the city of Abdud, the city of Asar, the city of the soul, which is the divine palace. So Ra'un means creator spirit consciousness unfettered. And this is a highly technical text, a piece of text. Because this symbol, the hair, and these two doors by itself means un, which means to unfetter. And usually you see the hair on its belly, like a rabbit. But here he's sitting vertical, sitting on his rump. He has the body of a human holding a special scepter, wasp scepter, and he has a sun disk. So what it means is that creator spirit consciousness, awareness, causes an unfettering, meaning a release. So think about what it means. Fettering mean you are constrained, you're being held back, you're being contained. But creator spirit consciousness awareness causes an unfettering your awareness. Awareness means that you are aware, that you are. Awareness is an experience that you are having in which creator spirit consciousness is in the midst of your feeling, your awareness of your experience. And if you remain in your creator spirit consciousness awareness self, you become released from the negative energies and forces that prevents you from achieving higher consciousness. The term Jedet here is being made by this symbol here. As you can see that it's been worn out, but you can make it out. This symbol is what is referred to as a Jed. Okay? Put a rectangle around it. It has 4 horizontal lines attached to a pillar, and it's pronounced Jed, and Jed means to be vertical. And here you have the addition of a T. This symbol is like an upside down bowl, and that gives you the T sound. So Jed et. So Jedet. And it also has a determinative, this circle, and it should have a sort of like a center. This is a determinative, which means a city or a location, a domain. So you're in the city of Jeddah. And this is it's not referring to a physical city on the, remember we're looking at this from the mystical perspective. That is the perspective of the sages that put this work together. So this city, this domain is again, a metaphor of a higher mystic region. So when you become vertical, when you move from becoming, when you have a vertical spiritual movement as opposed to a horizontal movement. Horizontal movement means that you're not really growing spiritually, you are where you are, and there is no spiritual advancement. A vertical movement means that you are expanding in consciousness awareness of higher spirit nature self. So your expansion in consciousness, and you develop the capacity, or you live in your higher consciousness centers. Remember, we said that the jet has these 4 horizontal lines at the top of a pillar. And these 4 horizontal lines represent the upper 4 psychospiritual energy centers. Energy centers. commonly referred to as chakras in the Indian Hindu tradition, yoga tradition. So it means that you're living out of your higher consciousness centers and you have moved beyond the lower expressions of the mind. So it means that you are existing in the regions of your awareness of divine love. That's your fourth energy center at the level of your heart. That's four. You are under the power of self-control. That's your fifth. That is the level of your throat. You are in union or your mystic awareness of the divine. And that's your sixth energy center, and that's your third eye level. This is mystic awareness. And then you have your union with the divine. That's your seventh energy center, and that's at the crown of your head. So you are existing in these higher consciousness centers. And that's what the jet pillar symbolizes. And so you are living in the city of Jedet, the city of the higher consciousness regions. So you are removed from egoism, hatred, waywardness, and ignorance of the divine. So you've made a vertical movement and you exist in your higher consciousness regions. And again, how does this happen? You don't just arise there due to wishful thinking. You arise there through spiritual discipline. We discussed the term Zesh the last time, and now we are confronted with it again. And in this context, it means to unlock. Here is the recall that we discussed the doorbolt. And here it is within the rectangle, and here it is as I'm going to trace the glyph so you can see. And that is it has it can mean the letter S, which can mean she or her, and Z, which can also mean she or her, and together, and they can also mean, it also means cause. It depends on the context in which it is used. So in this context, we're looking at it from the arrangement of the glyphs perspective. It means that the vertical movement is the cause of the unlocking of the door. Zesh means to unlock. So essentially what you have is a series of metaphysical processes that is leading to a mystic realization beyond the planes of temporality. Is there something about you that is absolute nature, absolute consciousness? And that is to be discovered through a mystic process. And as this text is laying out, that mystic process through a series of metaphysical steps. So creator consciousness and awareness is an unfettering that allows you to achieve a vertical movement in which you live in your higher consciousness centers. And again, what is negated by that movement is the egoism. And existing in those higher consciousness centers now becomes the cause that unlocks the door that allows you to go through to Abdut, is the term Abdut. Abdut is the city of Asar. From a geographical perspective, it is related to the modern day city of Abydos. However, when working with these kinds of texts, it's referring to the process of the mystic movement. So the Jed pillar is also called the backbone of Asar. So by existing in the backbone of Asar, in a metaphorical sense, you live in the city of Abdut. So you live in the city of Asar. Abdu is related to the divinity Asar, which is the city of the soul. So you are in this city of the soul, and what that means is that you are experiencing, you are existing in your own inner soul nature. In other words, you are becoming one with spirit soul, universal spirit soul. which is asar, discovering the essence of soul. So this is an internal movement in which you are discovering these higher mystic, more essential aspects of being. And what this does is that it is letting you to know that the physical body, your physical body nature, is a temporal construct, and now you're not with your physical body. Now you're in a higher mystic region. You're in your soul essence. So in other words, you're beyond the body. So Abdut is a metaphor for existing in spirit soul. You're living in that city. So in other words, you are a Sar living in the city of Abdut. So you're discovering your own Asar, you're discovering your Asarian nature, just spirit soul. And thus you go to the palace. Now, because you are living in the city of Asar, you reside in the divine palace, the Ahat. And here is the spelling of Ahat. Now, Ahat gives two essential glyphs that let us know something of this mystic region within oneself, or what is to be done within this domain, this plane of inner spirit soul that you are to discover within yourself to be released from the ignorance of higher consciousness. You have two special glyphs. You have an ideogram here, and in this context, it does not have a phonetic value. And it is a tool used in baking. So this ideogram is alluding to something. It's making an illusion. And it's alluding to that you're to be baked in the palace of the spirit soul. So you have come to Abdut, the city, and you don't just live anywhere within the city. You actually live in the divine palace. So you live in the palace of Asar. And so you are to go into that palace, and then you are to bake. You are to bake there. When you take a piece of bread, you have the dough, you mix it and you pound it, then you put it in the oven, then you have to wait for it to bake, for it to turn into a loaf of bread. And the baking process is what's bringing it to its completion as an article of food. So this baking is bringing you to the conclusion of the nature of spirit soul. And what I mean by that is your full, complete awareness of your spirit soul nature, in which there is a perennial awareness experience of your spirit soul essence. So think about how it would be if you go, if you prepare a piece of dough to make bread and you put it in the oven and then you take it out before it's done. Then you put it in again and you take it out before it's done. You have to leave it in the oven until it is completed. And then once it's completed, how can you separate the nature of bread from bread itself? You know, how can you separate the nature of soul from soul itself? And what that means is that you have discovered your soul nature, in which your awareness is inseparable from your perceived identity as who you are. So you see nothing else. All you see is, and all you experience is soul nature. Then there's a determinative. The determinative is here at the end of the term. So the ideogram is here, and the determinative is here. And the determinative is pronounced per. It means house. And what it's referring to is the abode of the spirit. So you're to become baked in the abode of the spirit. And that entails the capacity to move beyond the failings of the egoism that is keeping you fettered, restrained, contained. And so if you are released, you are unfettered through creative spirit consciousness awareness, then you exist perennially in your higher consciousness centers, which causes an unlocking of the door through which you enter into the city of Abdut, and you move into the divine palace where you remain, and you become baked in the consciousness of the spirit soul. And that baking process is perennial. Once you enter into the palace, you don't come out. You remain in the palace of your consciousness awareness of spirit nature. And if you stay there perennially, then you're an enlightened sage. This process begins by the cleansing and purification of mind. So there has to be a purification of mind through 4 disciplines. And the person that does this becomes the Shepsen, the royal noble. So anyone who achieves higher state of consciousness is a Shepsen, is a royal noble. Again, the term royal noble is an inference to the divinity Asar. Asar is the royal, Asar is the king. And you are that very same essence. You are that very same exalted, grand being. You have to go through the process of self-discovery. And so you go through the 4 Shetty disciplines. Number 1 is called Rek, and those are your wisdom teachings. Number 2, Uashu, and that is your devotional worship. 3, Ua, meditation practice. And from taking these classes, you know what I mean by meditation. The phases and stages of meditation. 4, Ma'at, Ari, so righteous action. And you blend these or you integrate them. These 4 practices. So you don't just do 1 or do 2, you have to do them all together. So you take time for a little reading of wisdom text. So you go over the lectures like this one, concentrate on it, you meditate on it, you reflect on it. You do your uashu, your devotional worship. You know, that with the whole, you have your altar, you have the divinity on the altar, you're lighting your incense, the candle, the libation you're pouring, you're offering the fruit. You do that continuously. You do your devotional chanting, devotional singing. And devotion to the divine extends through Ma'at Ari as well. Because when you're doing righteous action, that's a devotional act to the divine. And then you go through the stages of meditation, of your meditative practice. So you have to choose one of the meditations that resonate with you, that you like, and you practice that one. And you take that one to the end. So that one can be a serpent power, glorious light, any of the meditations, the numerous meditations that you've learned in these classes. But you have to choose one, and you become proficient in that one. And then your Ma'at Ari, your righteous action, which includes Your righteous action includes physical, mental, verbal, imaginative thought forms, acts. And then you may want to do the posture discipline or doing the posture system. You know what I'm talking about. So you have to open the doorway to the higher heavenly region within yourself by unbolting the door with spiritual force. You go through the aket. That's one process. Then your awareness of creator spirit consciousness brings you to an establishment in your higher consciousness centers. Jet also means steadfast. That means to remain with conviction in your higher consciousness centers. Which unlocks the door through which you enter into the city of Abdut, which is the spiritual city within you in which you reside in the palace of the spirit. And you allow yourself to be baked there as you live in the house of the spirit. Okay, everyone, that will be our discourse for this evening. So we'll have a closing chant, and then that will be it until we'll meet again. If there are any questions, you can leave them you can send an email. And the email is CHUANKH@gmail.com. Okay. Okay, so we have a closing chant, and then that will be it for this evening. So this is think about the idea of being baked. And what you're doing is that you're allowing yourself to be baked in the soul of the to be baked in the soul. So essentially to be baked in spirit soul. And if you allow yourself to be baked and baked and baked, what happens is that you become that which you are, that which is baking you. By become, I don't mean that you're becoming something that you not already are. It means that you arise in the full expansive awareness of that spirit soul nature. And you don't come out of that even while doing daily tasks. It's always there while doing daily tasks, it's in the background, but the awareness background is not lost. You have to be doing your things, but it's always there. And when you're sitting quietly, it's full immersion. So this teaching is talking about let's say you're going to a meditative process in which you have arisen in your higher spirit soul nature. And let's say you stay there for an hour or two, and then you come back to your body. But the baking continues because with effort, remember with spiritual force. So with effort, you maintain your awareness of that higher mystical experience. And so you continue the baking and the baking until the baking is essentially uh, effortless. It is always there. So you're always in the oven of the spirit. And if you do that, then you have transcended the worldliness that brings about a pain and suffering and misery and strife and grief. And time and space life is not perfect because there's no perfection in the world of time and space. But what it does mean is that you will be perfect in your awareness of your spirit soul nature. And that is all you need, really. Okay? So that will be it for this evening. So a closing chant. Nesudi hetep net perkeru. DDS ka uab amuneb nefreshepsi. Het net hetep. Net net duanet sefekera senuen. Duarasaru nefenetera. Duarasar herabdu. Duarasar nebjeta. Duarasar sutin. Om Hata Pata 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 Netahit Mesra Hata. Do everyone to meet again. Hata.
Right.
So, heads up.